Hello, YouTube. It is Mr. Maclunkey here, back from an overly long hiatus, here to bring you some very important SWGoH news. I do want to address at the top of this here that this video will contain some pretty major spoilers, not just for the upcoming Galactic Legend in SWGoH, but also for the Mandalorian Grogu movie. There are a few things a little bit later on that might hint at some plot details. So if you are wanting to avoid spoilers, please click off this video, and then please click back on like later. I need the views. Also comment, like, and whatever those other things are. Ring the bell. I could use the engagement. Getting close to the 100 subscribers, so I'm gonna have to film that 100 subscriber special pretty soon. Now that we're kind of getting back in the swing of things here. So I wanted to let you guys know I've come across a leak that I think is pretty credible, and I just wanted to run through it with you guys here. So what we have is, it's not a kit reveal, but it is like the requirements and a little bit of additional information for the upcoming Galactic Legend, which is apparently Mandalorian and Grogu. I always love Meathead's sense of humor, the little caption, "They fly now," and then this beautiful rendition of the Mandalorian and Grogu. And then we have here, this document is for internal references only, do not leak. I have it on good authority that famous CG shill Egnards made a pinky promise deal with Meathead in order to get access to this document. And I'm not going to say that Egnards accidentally leaked the document to me, because I don't want to get him in trouble. So I'm just not going to say anything at all. And I made no such pinky promise with Meathead, so I'm just going to run through and spoil all of this for you guys here and now. So let's see. So it looks like the unit requirement list first, and it looks like it's broken up into the in-game like sets of 4. First requirement, OG Mandalorian to Relic 9. Zero surprises to anyone there, I imagine. Pretty recently, a lot of the new GLs have been requiring all previous renditions of the character up to Relic 9, which at the time was the previous maximum. Not too surprised to see that here. Next one, Armor to Relic 7. Also not surprised. She's one of the few light side Mandalorian characters that isn't currently required for anything. If I navigate over to Mandalorian here. Yeah, so like we see like Bo-Katan, Mandalorian, like she is obviously an unlocked character. He's an unlocked character, but he's also required at R7, required at R7. Sabine at R7, Grogu at R7. So I mean, like Mandalorian technically isn't either at like a high relics, but the armor, someone that a lot of people don't have geared up necessarily. Sometimes she can find her way on a Bo-Katan squad. Sometimes she gets paired with C. Pretty integral character to the Mandalorian story. And I was honestly thinking we might see her at Relic 8, but I'm not surprised Relic 7 that fits. We have Grief, Karga, and Queel, both at R6. Nothing too crazy there. It seems like what they've done, because in the BAM event, there's a lot of these 5 characters required to unlock Beskar and Ramando, also known as BAM. And they're only required to be 7 stars and recommended to be gear 10 or higher. So it looks like they're going back through some of these other characters that you obviously have 7 starred, but probably haven't invested a whole lot in terms of relics. So it seems like they are just wanting us to go back through, apply some of those relics to those characters. Let's go ahead, take a look here. So up next, second batch, IG-12 and Grogu up to Relic 9. It seems like they are leaning into this idea that this GL is Mandalorian and Grogu as like a combined unit. So Grogu being required at Relic 9, not too big of a surprise either. And then it looks like IG-11 and Cara Dune, the other two BAM requirements, also required at Relic 6, so fits the pattern. Boba Fett Scion of Django is a little bit of a surprise, though, at Relic 7. Widely considered to be one of the worst Conquest units. He is one of the earlier ones released and does have a Lightspeed bundle that takes him to Relic 6. So potentially, if they do bring that bundle back around, which I imagine they might, I can even see them potentially offering like a Boba Fett Scion of Django 2 bundle that does take him to Relic 7 for obviously a little bit more money, as they like to do. I can see that being a potential. It seems like they're trying to get people. They always throw in some of these kind of junk units at a higher relic tier just to try and kind of force you to take a little bit more material for something that's not quite as useful. So prerequisites 3 out of 4. This one is where it gets kind of crazy. I knew this was coming, Relic 10 as a requirement for a Galactic Legend. I didn't know if it would be this soon. So Bam himself up to Relic 10. So they're following that pattern of taking previous iterations up to Relic 9, but hitting you with the sucker punch. Nah, the Bam needs to be 10. Bo-Katan Mandalore upgrade to Relic 8. This one kind of sucks. I'm going to say that because realistically, if I go over to Rise of the Empire, which is thankfully running right now, Bo-Katan Mandalore is required at Relic 7 for the unlock mission, and then required at Relic 9 for the Mandalore mission. It's this one. So it's one of those things where they're kind of splitting the difference, and they're saying, hey, if you're like a newer, smaller account, you got to take her a little bit higher than you want to in order to get that mission. Like you need 7 for the mission, but they want you to have an extra. And then at the same time, it's not necessarily that full push to be ready for that Mandalore mission. So they're kind of hitting you in that awkward in-between spot, which I think makes a lot of sense from an engagement perspective. Because realistically, if you're taking her to Relic 8 anyway, you're going to want to take her to Relic 9. So I think that makes a lot of sense there. We're seeing Embo to Relic 7, which I know they have hinted at the fact that Embo is going to be in the new movie. Potentially as a villain from what I've heard. Let me search Embo. So as of right now, I know a lot of people have him at Relic 7 already for Jabba, but he's technically not required for a lot of things. And I know a lot of people before Embo is kind of up and running, they do just use Boba Fett instead. So potentially for some of the kind of mid-game or like early late game accounts might be something where it's like, oh, now I got to take Embo up. For some people, you might already have this guy at Relic 7 or higher just due to him being part of the Jabba squad. Rada the Hutt, speaking of Jabba and his child, Rada the Hutt. So this is something that I thought at first was really weird that they would include this because I expected this whole list to just be full of these era units, era unit requirements. But I think what they did was really sneaky. They hit us with all of these other requirements at relic tiers, and then they say, oh, and then Rada you need at Relic 7. And what that does is obviously we can't see because a lot of this they're trying to be like, haha, we're going to hide it, whatever. And if I go into here, like Rada is just a question mark. But if I go over here to this guy, which assuming that they stick to a similar formula for Maul Web of Hate that they did for the Price of Hope with Cassian, we obviously don't know yet because Cassian hasn't come back for his farmability. But basically, when they came back for the farmability, they said, no, you need all these guys at Relic 6. So what they've done secretly by including Rada at Relic 7, all of his units that you need to unlock him are like stealth requirements at Relic 6. So realistically, rather than saying, oh, I need these 16 requirements, you've got an extra 6 piled on top of it, hidden inside the journey guide. Which, come to think of it, also, Bo-Katan Mandalore, she has several requirements at Relic 7. So that's also going to be a little bit tricky. We're having to go in here because obviously IG-12 and Grogu, Relic 9, Beskar Armor Mandalorian at 10. So those two don't really like matter because they're already required higher in this journey guide. But Keller and Beck and Paz Vizsla at Relic 7 are also stealth requirements for Mandalorian and Grogu. So a little bit tricky in 3 out of 4. Hitting us with the Relic 10, hitting us with the secret Bo-Katan stuff, and the Rada the Hutt marquees kind of all together. I see what you did there, CG. And then the fourth one made me lose it. So I know we were all expecting Razor Crest, which is a Proving Grounds ship, which is going to be difficult for some newer accounts. Also requires Bam as the pilot. That was kind of a no-brainer. But then I saw the other 3 requirements and I lost it. So it looks like a OG Moff Gideon, which I think was again another smart move by CG. Because if I go over to Gideon and search, there's 2 versions of Gideon in the game. There's Dark Trooper Gideon and there's OG Gideon. And I think what they did here was sneaky, because obviously a lot of people take, especially in the later game, which is the people you expect to be gunning for this GL, take Dark Trooper Gideon to Relic 8 to use in this event. And a lot of the time, people use other Imperial remnants and not OG Gideon as part of this team. So a lot of people have Gideon at lower relics. So I think a lot of us were expecting, oh, are they going to do Dark Trooper Gideon as like an FU to the lower tier accounts? But they actually went for the OG Gideon, which is more of a middle finger to us at the top, which I think is pretty clever from a spending point of view for them to be able to get a return on investment on these. We're also seeing Dark Trooper. They want us to take him to Relic 7, which is also a bitter pill to swallow. Hey, we're going to take Gideon, we're going to take Dark Trooper. But it makes sense. Those have been kind of like huge adversaries for Mando and Grogu throughout the whole series. We're also seeing Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker upgrade to Relic 8. So this one is kind of a blessing and a curse, honestly. So I know a lot of people have Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker because he is required at Relic 7 for Jabba the Hutt. He's required at Relic 7 for Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. I forget, is he a Leia requirement too? No, she has CLS. Yeah. Okay. So only for 2. And granted, there are a few characters that have been overlapping requirements before. Like I think it's Count Dooku is in a bunch of these. Required at like sometimes 7, sometimes 8, whatever. But what they've kind of done here is pros, boom, like this is already a unit that's needed for 2 existing things, and you just need to go bump him up 1. Also, really strong unit. Like he's not going to be one of those like painful relics. He's going to be someone that you actually want to invest in. But also going over to the solo journeys, he is a tier 5 journey character, and obviously not as steep of requirements being a kind of smaller unit. Just Relic 3 for all of these, but that's Relic 3 for Wampa, which is easier to access now, but still requires some setup and investment. Commander Luke Skywalker, which is also a journey guide character. Yeah, a few of these guys. This one I don't think requires like a specific... Oh, Han's Millennium Falcon, which is also a journey guide. Hermit Yoda. Like, so a lot of these different characters, not necessarily with a huge investment, but obviously this is kind of a multi-tiered journey. However, seeing Gideon, Dark Trooper, and Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker required in the journey guide, I think you know what's coming up a little bit later here. So we actually, in addition to the requirements, I almost lost it. Like there is descriptions of each of the battle tiers. So like if I go over here in Galactic Legends and look at like Hondos, like this is what I'm talking about. So like this is the prerequisites that we had at the front of this document. Now we're getting this information, kind of the like tidbits and details of like what his different levels are going to be. So again, like obviously double spoiler warning. Some of this does cover stuff from the movie. And also just in general, like these are the battles you're going to be doing to unlock him. So if you don't want spoilers, please look away. So first and foremost, victory counts, pretty typical. You can battle as many times as you want, but you only get rewards from the first 4 fights, and the first 4 fights are the only ones that cost tickets. Requirements, OG Mando, makes sense. They're starting with kind of the original version of the character. Usually they like to tell a story through the journey guide and kind of build on it as they go. So with this kind of starting in that season 1 area, which they've already covered a decent amount of season 1 in the BAM journey. So it looks like they are going for something a little bit different, though. They never really covered the Mudhorn sort of battle, which is also that little logo that they put on the side of like BAM's armor is the Mudhorn, which is super cool. So it looks like we are going to be fighting a Mudhorn boss. It looks outmatched by brute force. Grogu unexpectedly uses the Force to levitate the beast. So like this is when they're trying to get the egg for the Jawas. So victory will be achieved when the Mandalorian uses the granted ability Force Levitate. The Mandalorian gains the granted ability Force Levitate when he completes his contract payout. So it looks like it's one of those kind of survival ones where you're just trying to survive long enough to hit payout. You get the little levitate and it probably plays a little cutscene. Grogu lifts him up and he like stabs it or whatever. So pretty straightforward for that first battle. Mandalorian's ability has been modified for this battle. Obviously, I don't have access to any of these kits, so I don't know how they've been modified. But it does look like there is going to be some sort of change to like the Mandalorian's kit a little bit. So tier 2, again, pretty standard 4 battles with rewards. Looks like Bam, Scion of Jingo, and then we get to borrow a granted unit of Fennec Shand. So I'm imagining this is probably that kick-ass fight scene that got me so hyped for the Book of Boba Fett before the Book of Boba Fett just was not good. So yeah, as Grogu enters deep meditative trance on top of the Seeing Stone, Mandalorian Boba Fett and Fennec Shand form a desperate defensive line against waves of Imperial stormtroopers. Victory is overshadowed by the sudden arrival of Dark Troopers. So it looks like fighting waves of stormtroopers, and then there's probably going to be the cutscene of the Dark Troopers kidnapping Grogu. They might blow up the Razor Crest. We'll have to see. Fennec Shand will be loaned. Bam being defeated as an immediate loss makes sense. Bam's abilities have been modified for this battle. So one of the things I'm kind of hoping for is I remember there was a point in time where Beskar Mando had like, was that spear, right? That he took from Gideon. I wonder if that's going to show up. That would be kind of cool. Just to see something a little bit different than kind of the whistling birds or whatever there. Tier 3 victories only for the rewards, pretty standard. So a lot of units required for this. Bam, Bo-Katan, Cara Dune, Jedi Knight, Luke Skywalker, borrowed units, Fennec Shand. Trapped aboard the bridge of Moff Gideon's cruisers, the Mandalorians brace for a final stand against an army of Dark Troopers, relentlessly punching through the blast doors. Certain defeat is averted by the arrival of a mysterious cloaked figure. So looks like Fennec Shand loaned, Beskar Mando defeated as an immediate loss. In Wave 1, the Dark Troopers cannot be defeated. Victory is achieved when Bam takes 8 turns. Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker will have his appearance and abilities altered for this battle. So it looks like 2-wave battle. You've got Mando and crew just trying to survive. Make sure you get turns on Mando. And then once the counter's there's probably going to play a cutscene, and then we get to reenact the Luke Skywalker hallway scene. Super iconic in round 2. So very excited for that battle. Looks like it's going to be pretty cool. So tier 4 here. This is the 3 battle tier. Borrowed unit, Grogu duel. See below, Grogu faces off against Mandalorian Foundling as a rite of passage. The 2 duel with paint darts. First to land 3 shots wins. This encounter special duel. Oh my god. So it looks like they're going back. I don't know if you guys remember. Is it tier 6 or tier 5? It's tier 3. Okay. Oops. But yes. So pretty controversial. Some people love it. Some people hate it. But they had a special duel mechanic for SLKR and Rey's journey. It's probably also, yep, Rey duel. So it looks like they're recreating that special duel mechanic here, and Grogu's going to do the little dart with like the force flip against that kid. So I mean, I guess kind of cool. A little bit more of a Grogu centered thing. I feel like so many things involving the Mandalorian have been very like Din Djarin centered. We've got like obviously like the main characters up until we got IG-12. We never really got a Grogu unit on his own. He was just kind of an ability or like a support on Mando. So excited for this, kind of. We'll see if they improve it at all, or if it's the same kind of thing where it's like, oh boy, gotta deal with this garbage. Tier 5. Excuse me. Tier 5, unlimited 5 times rewards only. So it looks like they're doing the Pirate King Pondo setup for this, where instead of having the like separate ultimate ability tiers, it looks like you do the final like tier 5 and tier 6 both 5 times and earn the ulti materials off of both of them. Required units, Mandalorian Grogu and Road to the Hutt. So these are the ones that get into the movie spoilers here. So in the gladiator pits of Shikari, the Mandalorian and Grogu team up with a surprisingly formidable Rod of the Hutt. to fight their way through the arena's deadly ranks. Their skills are pushed to the limit when the legendary bounty hunter Embo enters the fray. Mandalorian Grogu being defeated will result in an automatic loss. Embo's abilities have been modified for this battle. So, what that tells me is, this is the ultimate tier journeys where you have the actual GL available to you. And it looks like they're saying Mandalorian and Grogu are going to be teaming up with Rod of the Hutt, which is pretty interesting because I feel like usually you expect like the light and dark side characters to be against each other, but it looks like Rada and him are going to be teaming up. Embo has not been a particularly fearsome character, so it'll be interesting to see how they modify his abilities to act as a boss. From the sounds of it, there's probably going to be like some waves, or like at least one wave of like pit fighter, gladiator, arena combatants, or like whatever that you fight through. I don't know if it's just going to be Mandalorian Grogu first, if you might fight Rada before he joins you, or what. But it seems like by the end of it, it's going to be the two of them against like a boss version of Embo. Should be interesting. So next one, tier 6, unlimited, 5 times, whatever. This is the ulti-tier thing again. Mandalorian and Grogu team up with Bo-Katan Mandalore. Desperate strike against a resurgent Moff Gideon who has clawed his way back from the grave with a terrifying army of clones. So obviously, huge spoiler for the end of the movie. I'm imagining they saved this kind of final tier of the journey for the climax of the film. Mandalorian and Grogu being defeated, automatic loss, have access to their ultimate for the battle. So it does look like they are loaning you their ultimate ability, which I imagine it's probably going to be like the finishing move that they use to kill Gideon in the movie is probably going to be their ultimate. So I think that's why they're giving it to you as the kind of ability there. Moff Gideon will have his appearance and abilities altered for this battle. So again, Moff Gideon being the required unit, they're putting him in here, but obviously there's going to be some new version of Moff Gideon that doesn't have a unit yet, but they're just going to reskin and re-kit the existing Gideon. So honestly, all in all, I think really insane information to get this early into the game. Some surprises, but really pretty standard for the most part. A lot of the kind of expectations around Relic 9 and such. I feel like if anything, the things that caught me off guard was Jedi Master Luke Skywalker, but in retrospect, after reading the battles, that makes a huge amount of sense. Seeing OG Gideon initially, I was like, well, they're probably going to do Dark Trooper, but it does make sense. They're trying to push us to take these units that are kind of discarded up to higher relic levels. And then as well, the stealth requirements, like Keller and Beck at R7 is technically a requirement for this. Bunch of Relic 3s from Luke's journey. What's his name? Paz Vizsla at R7, which I expected to see Paz Vizsla on here at R7 or R8, but it honestly makes sense because he's already captured by the Bo-Katan Mandalore part. Like, they don't need to add him twice because he's like a stealth requirement. And then I think this is something they're probably going to be doing for going forward, is this kind of Rada the Hutt thing here. I think we're going to start seeing that for all of the new GLs when they do have these, because in one line, 1 out of the 16 unit requirements, and boom, they've have like 5 or 6 tunes required at Relic 6, and then 1 required at Relic 7 as like the legendary unit. So I think that's a way they're going to start to like sneak some of these in here, where they can go and say, hey, this is the new stuff, all encapsulated in that legendary, and then they can fill the rest of this with old stuff. So like obviously there's some pain points in this, and there's some gimmies, usually kind of how it goes. So, I mean, all in all, I'm really excited to see how this shakes out. I think it'll be interesting that they've kind of broken the pattern of light, dark, dark, light, light, dark, dark, light, light, dark. But I think this does set us up pretty well, Mandalorian and Grogu now. And then prior to the Heir to the Empire film, they can drop GL Thrawn. I'm going to see if I can sneak into Egnard's information sources by the time GL Thrawn rolls around to see if I can peek at anything like this again. Hopefully Meathead doesn't ban him for this, for letting me have this information early. And I think to cap this video off, I do want to scroll back and just admire this art again. Like, that's fantastic. Anyway, very happy to be back. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.